Now that Minecraft 1.16's Nether update is in full swing, I thought it'd be fun to look over what Mojang has added so far and offer some tweaks and extra ideas to make things even better. There's all kinds of things you could add, but I've picked a few ideas that really stuck out to me. I was just gonna go on a big tweeting spree with all my thoughts, but I had too many, so I figured it'd be better to just put them in a video instead. Either way, I will be your guide, I'm Simply Sark, and today, let's talk about what's missing in the Nether update. There's lots to chat about, so let's just dive into my first thought. The talk of the town is that Minecraft finally has a new ore, netherite, but specifically ancient debris. This extremely rare block is found deep in the nether beneath lava lakes and has been designed to be pretty tricky and dangerous to get a hold of. Now, I really like the idea of making nether mining a thing. Once upon a time it was utterly pointless because there was nothing of note to dig up, but then we of course eventually got nether cores. With ancient debris, there's even more incentive to start up a mine, but I've spotted a pretty glaring issue with the whole thing. So mining the debris practically demands you set up a branch mine. It'd be total chaos trying to blindly claw around in the murky lava. The problem comes from the fact the nether doesn't really have a caving system like the overworld does. Think about it. Branch mining in the overworld, which is already considered a fairly bland activity, is made tolerable by the abundance of distractions. There's a handful of useful ores you can encounter. You might bump into a cave or a ravine or a mine shaft or a dungeon or maybe even a stronghold. It breaks up the monotony by creating little bubbles of excitement every now and then. There's also the fact that even if you fail to find anything valuable, you still gain a chest or two full of cobble or stone, very popular building blocks that you're bound to need at some point. Compare this to the nether and you start seeing the issue. Mining for debris is gonna take a while, and it's gonna be very dull work. You're not gonna find any caves or points of interest, you're literally only being rewarded with netherrack, one of the least popular and used building blocks. And the only thing that mixes it up is the game trying to murder you with lava pockets. Now, a lot of people reckon TNT mining is going to be big for debris mining. Netherrack is very susceptible and debris is immune to explosion damage, which will help alleviate. However, I do still think we need something to make it a little bit less tedious. Caves, structures and new ores would be great, but I'm not going to pretend those are simple additions that can just be magicked up on the spot. I think a decent solution would be replacing the lower levels of the nether with something other than netherrack. It could be something we already have, or it could be a totally new block. For example, I think people would feel more grateful if they had a chest of basalt instead of netherrack after an hour or two. This next suggestion isn't actually mine, but I'm 100% on board with it. There's been a lot of talk about netherite. I made a whole video on what it means for the game, but some people reckon the design is a little plain for being the new top tier. Personally, I'm a fan of the whole charred metal vibe, but I do understand where people are coming from. Some also feel diamonds shouldn't be thrown to the wayside, and that netherite should advertise a "this is an upgrade, not a replacement" image. That makes sense, and the community has been at work concocting some nice compromises. The first is that netherite gear should incorporate diamond into the design, so that it looks like diamond being plated or reinforced with this new material. This is quite a good start, but I also saw a really great spin-off of this thought. Reddit user Seb Moby introduced the idea that netherite could have a glowing vein of gold running through it. I think this is a lovely way to do it. You get to keep the charred metal look, but you also get to add back in the old materials without it looking garish or over the top. It's a subtle animated flare that looks great and makes the set feel much more high-end. My only comment is that it might look good with a few occasional cyan flares to reference the diamond within. As a quick extra thought, I think in the future it would be good to re-add a new ultimate diamond or true diamond set to give diamond the top spot back. Maybe even rename current diamond to rough diamond. This way the game can freely add new tiers beyond netherite, but the iconic diamond gets to keep the title. Kind of like not seeing a friend for a while until they suddenly reappear, better and more brilliant than ever. I was wondering if this was going to work, but apparently not. Yet at least. Either way, it'd be absurdly time consuming to build the entire thing, though I have seen a few suggestions about netherite beacons. Personally, I think if they were going to do it, it should work as some kind of corrupted beacon. Maybe the beam could be all sinister and swirly instead, and rather than making the game easier, it could make it more challenging. Maybe the corrupted beacon could create a rallying effect that made mobs spawn in with more health, stronger attacks, and make them harder to shake off. It would let the players choose if they wanted to up the difficulty without forcing it on them. On that note, I spotted another problem that, for sure, needs addressing somehow. See, with the Nether update, the idea is that the Nether is actually somewhere you can live if you like, not just a transport hub. While this is supposed to be more challenging, there's a problem with the Soul Sand Valleys. This biome, which is gorgeous by the way, spawns in the undead like skeletons and ghasts with much higher frequency. While this is great, the ghast spawns are really going to undermine that you can actually live in the Nether idea. It basically means outdoor builds in the Soul Sand Valley are a no-go because you're just never going to see an end to the fireballs. I don't think they should nerf it though. Ghosts drifting around really complement the biome. What I think we need is a tool or device to subdue the ghasts. So, how about this? The Netherite Gong. I was inspired by the villager bells, so there's already a precedent for this kind of thing in the game, and I think it would be a great solution. When you bang the gong for 5 or 10 minutes, all ghasts and ghasts that spawn are given a soothed status effect, and maybe their face changes too. Unless you provoke them, they won't attack. I think this makes sense, seeing as ghasts are basically just misunderstood, tortured souls. There's even some subtle lore about it with ghast tears and unused affectionate scream sound files. Also, just as a subtle detail, I think it'd be really cool if skeletons and ghasts rose from the soul soil when they spawned in the valleys. Would definitely make things even spookier. One of the most bittersweet parts about the Nether update is the Netherite block. This block looks great, sounds cool, and we'll never be able to use it for anything more than a trophy. Don't get me wrong, I think Minecraft needs more trophy items, and rare stuff isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, if there was one material that I just don't understand how there isn't more of in a game about mining, it's metals. This is only the third proper metal block ever added to the game, and it's ultra rare. I don't think they should change that, but I would like to see a different take on it. Here's what I do. First of all, I'll change the netherite texture to be in line with the earlier suggestion, where it has a subtle flare to it. This keeps it fancy and differentiates it from my next point. Because this texture is so desirable, and we need more metal, it'd be cool if you could create something like imitation netherite or pig netherite. Maybe it could be 8 parts basalt, 1 part debris, and this creates a block that uses the current texture. This would let us use the texture realistically in survival, but still retain pure netherite's luxury. By the way, I totally think they should add this advancement to the game too. It'd be hilarious. So just to acknowledge it, because it's one of the top suggestions, I do agree that the Nether could use a form of transportation over lava. I've seen crimson and warped plank boats, netherite boats, and lava frostwalker has been seen a lot over the years. These are okay, except the warped and crimson boats, those are too cheap, but I actually have a more interesting take on it. I'm not going to talk about it today because it requires its very own video, but I do agree it'd be neat to have something to address it. This could very much still be added, but the first thing I tried when I saw the weeping vines was climbing down them. Doesn't work at the moment though. Still, I thought of a cool idea for them. Instead of just making them carbon copies of regular vines, I reckon these could actually work really well as some kind of rope. It'd sort of function like scaffolding, where you can add to the vine from anywhere on the entire structure. This way, the vine could be used to abseil down high places without having to build up from the bottom. There's not really an elegant way to do this in the game at the moment, and it'd make navigation a little less frustrating. I've also seen the idea of netherite shulker boxes being floated around. When I first heard it, it sounded great, but then I decided it sort of invalidates netherite gear. If you can just put all your non-netherite stuff in a box, netherite becomes a lot less special. Even still, I think a spin on this idea could be cool. Instead of a box, they could add a netherite pouch. This can only hold 2 or 3 items and lets you protect just your most precious belongings. This way, shulker boxes aren't invalidated, and it'd be too tedious to use the pouches to store all your inventory. The Nether update is only just getting underway, so it still remains to be seen what's going to be added. For all we know, Mojang could add every single one of these and more, or they could add none, or they might have completely different solutions in mind. Let me know your own thoughts and tell me, if you're from the future, did I get anything right? Either way, that's all that's been on my mind for now. I certainly hope you enjoyed this video, guys, but I've been Simply Sark, and I will catch you in the next one.